The amount of debt that has been racked up by individuals is historic. Millennials are drowning in debt right now, and it seems that they have credit card debt worse than any previous generation. With the future looking grim for average jobs, millennials need to plan accordingly. You came here for the truth, so let me unveil that for you. Today we're going to look at the debt situation which has presented itself. Let's begin with this article out of NBC. So first I want to cover a little bit of these statistics, and then I want to show you the charts. All right, so let's get into it. Approximately 3 out of every 4 millennials in the US have some form of debt. Now hold on right there. And they're putting off major milestones because they can't pay up. It's not the fact that they have debt. It's not the fact that they may have, a few dollars on that credit card. We're talking about significant amounts. Look at this. A quarter of millennials, those 18 to 34 years old, are over $30,000 in debt, including 11% who are over $100,000 in debt. Only 22% of millennials are debt-free. These numbers are staggering. This should be a warning signal to what could happen in the near future. All of this debt, remember this, is securitized, collateralized. They take it, they package it up, and they sell it to investors. You think you have credit card debt, whether it's, let's say, that $30,000 in debt? You think it's there with the credit card company? They sold it off. It's an investment to somebody else. That's how messed up this system really is. I don't think a lot of people understand that. That's how we have a big problem, because look, if you don't pay back your debt, you may not really realize what's happening here. But ultimately, there's somebody on the other end of that that's going to lose big time. And it's okay if it happens to one person or 2 people or 5 or 10 or 20, but once it starts happening on a more of a grand scale, like it did during the subprime crisis, we start to realize how terrible derivatives really are. Despite what that individual who I had an argument with a few years ago at a major bank in Canada, and he argued with me that derivatives weren't all bad. Well, I disagree. As a result, saving has taken a back seat, which has affected the pace at which millennials live their lives and left most unprepared for a financial emergency. Credit cards, meanwhile, are playing an even bigger role than student loans. Take a look at the student loan debt. You'll see it rising. Oh, guess what? If I look at credit card debt, it's rising. If I look at any form of debt, it's rising. They are all rising to different degrees, but ultimately what has happened is individuals have been racking up the debt. Let's look at student loans. They don't have the money saved up. Maybe their family didn't want to give them the money, didn't want to put them through school, or they simply couldn't afford it. So what do? Well, they say, get a student loan, pay it off, go get a job. And that's the way it works for many people. And that's fine. However, they've racked up, in this case, anywhere between $30,000 and $100,000 in debt. That's not sustainable, and that takes a hell of a long time to pay off. I'm sure many of you know. So how can they pay it off if they get out of school in their, let's say, mid-20s, if they're going to go to, let's say, the standard way of looking at things? If they'll go to high school, they finish, they go directly to a college or university, they're in there for 4 years, and they're maybe, let's say, at most 25 years old, and they're out of school, they have a degree of some sort, and now they're going to get a high-paying job, and life is good, that debt is all paid off, and it's all rainbows and flowers. Well, wait a minute. That's not how it's been working? Right. What we can see here is that, unfortunately, the average individual tends to delay everything. That's just the way it is, and that's okay for different circumstances in life. They delay by the time they get to that post-secondary education. They're in there for longer than they expected. They accumulate more debt than they expected. They change their majors 3 times. They end up racking up so much debt. Then they come out. Finally, they have paper up on the wall. And so they have this, whatever it might be. They have it. They can't get a job. Or they were expecting a certain salary and they definitely can't get that job. And I know many of you individuals out there listening have definitely agreed with me on the fact that maybe they just got a job thinking, look, this is going to be temporary. I'll take this job now. I got to pay off my debt. I'll pay it off over time and then I'll get a better job. This is just temporary. And of course it's not for many people. They end up staying there after 10 years. They're looking back and saying, wasn't exactly what I had in mind. But they're in the job, they're comfortable, they have a little seniority, they got their vacation days, they know their people, they're able to get back and forth from work, everything's good. So they stay. That's what happens to a lot of people. People who went to this college or universities don't end up using that. All they ended up using was a whole bunch of debt. Now, let's get back into this issue here before I stop myself and rant all over the place here. Has debt ever caused you to delay any of these life events? Right on the top of the list here, you can see buying a house, 34%. Buying a house is a very big step, obviously, depending on where you're looking. I just covered the median sale price in San Francisco right now, $1.6 million. Look at any major city and you see very, very high prices. Maybe not 1.6 million, but still, wherever you see a lot of population, there tends to be, in the US, there tends to be a lot of, very expensive things, whether it's housing or anything else. Saving for retirement, I would say that if the average individual is 18 years old, they're not looking to save for retirement. And I don't blame them in this case. I mean, you're 18, you should be more worried about buying a house. But then you look at the statistic for buying a house, then you see what happens. As time goes on, new things arise. That's the issue we're presented with. New things will always arise as people get older. They have different problems in their life. They have different things that appear, and it's just constantly chasing your tail. The hamster spinning in the wheel. You know what I'm talking about. Financial difficulty, if you had to pay unexpected $1,000 bill. 42% of people said they're going to have financial difficulty if they have to pay $1,000. Now think about it. If you owned a home and one of your appliances breaks, that could easily be $1,000. And things aren't made the way they used to be. That can happen at any time. Maybe your car breaks down. Now you got to take the bus. Maybe it's very inconvenient. It adds an hour to your trip every day and this and that. You know where I'm going with this, okay? People are not prepared. It's not just millennials, of course. How much do you currently have in your savings account? 29%. 29% said they have less than $1,000. That's not a good thing. 24% have nothing. They have nothing, and guess what? They're racking up the debt. If you think that this is a good prospect for the future, we got something else coming here. When we factor that in, look at how many people essentially have either none or less than $1,000 here. It's unbelievable to see the way this is. And a lot of this, sure, they're squandering their money. They're spending it on things they don't need, like iPhones and things. But I would also suggest to everyone that look at what's happening with the student debt. That shouldn't really be this way. School should not be that expensive. It's ridiculous. Prices are being pushed up. Look at, maybe not with necessarily millennials, but a lot of individuals out there who are burdened by what's happening with healthcare. It's so expensive and it continues to get more expensive. So surely they rack up more debt, maybe directly or indirectly. If you're spending more in one place, you have to then, cut from other places, or you end up, taking out different loans or credit card debt or line of credit or anything else. It's not a good sign. Do you currently have any of these types of loans or debts? 46%. Let me get my highlighter out here. 46% credit card, student loan 36%, car loan 34%, and so on. Sure, 23% have no debt, and that's good. They may be living at home. Maybe that's the case here. In that case, I would say if you have no debt, I hope that you're saving into different investments. Maybe you're just saving in your bank account if that's what you want to do. You need to be prepared because things can change in an instant. You don't want to hurt your credit there. You don't want to be able to be pushed up against the corner because you never know what's going to happen. Always be prepared no matter how old you are. I want to switch gears for a second here. Now, talking about housing prices. Typical U.S. homeowners are gaining more than $50 of equity in their homes during every 8-hour workday, according to Zillow. Price gains in some parts of the country have been significantly higher in booming tech cities, San Jose, San Francisco, Seattle. Appreciation of the typical home added the equivalent wealth of a 6-figure annual salary. That doesn't make sense. This is completely unsustainable. If you buy a house in San Francisco or Seattle, all you need to do is sit there and live off of the equity. And guess what? A lot of people are doing that. This is ridiculous. They're calling it supplemental income. Think about that. We're talking about home equity line of credit. We're talking about an absolute disaster waiting to happen. Okay? Taking a look at this now in a list format. Take the example of San Francisco here. Every day, these people are making $500 just off of the value of their home. Every hour. They earn $60 an hour, and it's assuming an 8-hour workday, by the way. Just take a look at this. $60 an hour. So you don't even need to get a job. You just have to be a homeowner in San Francisco, and you're making a fortune. All right. That's all for this video. I'm going to end it there. If you found it informative, please give me a thumbs up. When you give me a thumbs up, it helps to support this channel, so I really do appreciate that very much. And last but not least, if you found this video informative, I know that you will find my books, The Money GPS and my new release, Global Economic Collapse, even more informative. You can actually flip through these books at Amazon. If you go to the link in the description below, it will take you over there. You can flip through the books for yourself. Take care.